Let me start at the beginning of the time of my life. This was 1980 in a small rural town of Athens, Texas. I know there's Athens, Ohio. There's some very similar things going on. At the time, my mother was an alcoholic and an addict. This is late 70s and 80s. She was the kind of person who was familiar in making bathtub acid and so on and so forth. She met my father, and I came into existence. Well, it became more abusive, verbally and physically. And the point came where the day that my mother and my grandmother were packing up to leave Athens, he shows up, rips me out of the hands of my mom, almost drops me. My foot dangles the ground, and we already knew something was going on. Police were called, and I wasn't even a year old. This man tried to kidnap me and take me away from my family. All because whatever reasons why. So my whole life experience from the beginning till now has been chaos and discord and destruction in one form or another because of drugs and alcohol. Now we can fast forward to school. Well, I can talk about my time in kindergarten because I just wasn't someone that people liked. I was bullied, I was beaten, I was urinated on. A lot of horrific things have happened to me starting even in kindergarten. And then of course, like the ministry side of things is like when I was age 18, I got saved. I went to vacation Bible schools. That was the only time I could go. The family wasn't really involved in church. And then it was junior high, about 13 years of age, I got baptized. And my mom, in this time frame, she swore to God, this is what she said, I will never date another man. I will never touch another drink. I'll never touch any more acid. I won't shoot up. I won't. And it was about 5th grade. I started getting involved in Weebelows and Boy Scouts, and we met this woman, I won't know her name, and she was off the drink, and she was off the man. So my whole 5th grade junior high experience on the weekend was a different man, different drug, different drink. It was like me sitting here on the floor, and just a massive, crazed orgy of drugs, alcohol, and sex my mother experienced. That was my first experience of what even sex looked like. The mother. Guys coming up to me, telling me jokes about off-color things, about sexuality, and what they've done to my mother. This is how my life growing up was. So later on, through other people and places, she met another man, and he was an ex-Marine. He had PTSD, and he had drug problem. He liked to drink. He liked to sell weed. He liked to shoot up. And through this man, she eventually gets married. It goes from a marriage where my mother's completely out of the situation. I'll mention my grandmother. Well, my grandmother's in a wheelchair. So from 6th grade all the way through my high school years, I'm getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, feeding, clothing, and bathing my grandmother and trying to go to school. All at the same time, this destructive environment. My mother used to look really nice and pretty like every woman in this room, but you know what happens? The more you drink, the more you smoke, the more you use, she looked like an 85-year-old woman. It got so bad and caught up to her. Now, we're not really sure exactly how the situation happened. She got hepatitis C. We're thinking it either came from a blood transfusion in about 74, or it could have been from the different men and things that she was involved in. I didn't test it, my brother didn't test it. We're fine. But her life degraded. It degraded so bad that she ended up dying from it. And you'll find out later more about that story. I found out like a few years ago in my life, like I said, I didn't really know much about my father. I found out in 98 he actually died of a heart attack because of drug use. And my stepfather, well, in 2006 in July, he got run over by an 18-year-old. He's passed away. And why I ended up homeless because I was placed in a situation in my life where I'd stay at home and get beat up and molested, cussed at, and dealt with, or choose to go to a shelter, choose to go somewhere else, and try to start my life over again. And it was at this point where I thought about verses like 1 Peter 1:13, preparing your minds for action so that you can place your hope clearly on the grace that's placed before you in Christ Jesus. And I would sit here and read the Bible, why I'm getting beat up, why I'm getting cussed at, why I'm seeing these situations I had no power over. And what would happen is God miraculously took me from this nasty situation and put me in a shelter. Now, life in a shelter is a whole different experience, and this opened up another door that most people don't understand. But God gave me the opportunity to to start ministering to the other addicts. The men and women that would come in there, I would tell them, my mom and stepfather is an addict. And these people would come in there, they would want to go to rehab, they would want to go to AA, they would want to get changed. Of course, there were people there that did not care. But they abused their children, they abused their wives. And I was the guinea pig, I say, the first person, a firewall, to give them another chance to say, I forgive you. Many of these people were barred from going to their homes because they were at court order from whatever facility they were at. So at the shelters and the rehabs that I spoke at and talked at, this is what the men and women and children would talk to me about. They're like, I don't know how to talk to my family. I've made mistakes. I don't know how to clear things up. So I would be the person that they would go to try and find some kind of redeeming property. But at the same point, I'm going to admit, in the beginning I was angry. I was mad. I was furious. And anyone that was an addict, I did not want nothing to do with any addict. Why did God put me in this situation? And it gets even more crazy. Here I am being given an opportunity to go all the way across the world to South Africa from a homeless shelter, while homeless, to minister to homeless people all the way across overseas. I was in South Africa for almost a whole month. And then later on, I get involved with the Salvation Army and start making changes and almost became a Salvation Army officer. I know there's a corps here in Portsmouth. So, as I said, my whole life, becoming this now orphan, I think about verses in the Bible where Christ says that, and God says that, oh, if your mother and father forsake you, the whole moving the song about, I'll take care of you. That was my lifeline. That was what I had to lean on to even survive. I'm not going to lie and say that I did not have struggles. I did not have problems. There wasn't things in my life that weren't perfect. But it was people like you and everyone else in this room that would grab a hold of my hand and say, I need help. A good example is, because of the poor life I went through, I had a backpack that went from the 5th grade, actually the 3rd grade, all the way up to about the 7th grade. The school noticed this because I was duct taping my backpack. And I set my backpack on the floor, and the cockroaches would come out, and so on and so forth. Well, there was a teacher that realized something was different, and we needed to do something for this child. And what they offered, there was like some kind of program for performance or something. And they pulled me aside, and I had the right grades or something. They said, they pulled me in this room, and there's a room where they were giving out, supplies and clothes and things that were autographed and whatnot, and they gave me a backpack. I got this backpack off the 7th grade. Now, this backpack was one of these high-class hiking backpacks. It was so strong, I actually used that backpack from the 7th grade all the way up to 2005 until it finally ripped. Imagine that, a backpack that had 4 or 5 bags, only lasts 2 or 3 years, lasts from like 1996 to 2004. Kind of gets you the right mentality where I'm at. So the reason why I'm here today is because my story in my life is something that you just don't ever hear this side of the story. You'll hear it from moms and parents will get together and talk about how the loss of a loved one. And that's what I love about this, is you guys are coming together with all different kinds of people and actually saying, this is a problem, here's what we're dealing with, how do we deal with grief, how do we move to the next step. And from many of the people I've talked to here in Ohio sharing my story, they think it's completely unreal. And the one part that I haven't said yet, I never did any drugs, and I was never an alcoholic. I never did any of this stuff because I saw what the destruction could do. I saw how it was destroying my life, even though I didn't do this. There was a pattern that just kept going and going and going. But there was this beating inside of me saying, there's something more. There's something more out here than what really matters. So like I said, my mother is gone, my stepfather is gone, my father is gone. I can relate. The what weird thing is about my stepfather is between the tussles that we got in, and yes, we screamed sometimes, and there was physical situations because he's beating my mother, so I'd have to intercede on her behalf. I mean, as a child, there's just no way you can just turn off the emotional switch and sit in the corner and watch your mom. I had to defend her. I had to place my hands on my stepfather, and the police knew these things. They knew what was going on. And Mr. Moore, you probably have heard other stories like mine where somebody would have this consistency going on and on again, and there's a child in a situation where it's not the child's fault. And I have to admit, I blame myself for years. That these people, that the way they live their life is my fault. And I finally learned later on, it's not my fault. I have no control of what other people do. So what happens next after this homeless experience of going to South Africa and coming back and getting involved with the Salvation Army? Later on, I decided to join the military. Well, this required top secret clearance. And you know how long it takes to get top secret clearance. It's your whole life on transparency. One of the ministers that helped me get involved with the different things I was doing always pointed out to me and touched me on the shoulder very gently and said, remain transparent at all times. I said, how in the world is that going to work? How in the world am I going to be able to do that? Because I had this blame in the back of my head still, even in 2004, with all the stuff that happened to me. Well, it took about 6.5 months to go through my whole existence, all the way back to when I was a little kid, elementary school, so on and so forth, jobs, whatever. I got my clearance. I went to Cape May, New Jersey for about 9 weeks. I ended up staying an extra week because I got the flu and I have half flat feet and I have to wear orthotic shoes. So they had to go and get me all formed out. It's a really weird process of getting orthotic shoes. They scan your feet with a laser. It's all sci-fi. I felt weird standing on the laser. Yeah, kind of weird stuff. But then I ended up getting, after that, it was a guaranteed aid school, so I got like a monetary bonus. And I went to Operations Specialist School outside of Petaluma, California at Turok. Turok, for those that are historically minded, it's the old World War II communications crypto base where we were actually deciphering Japanese and other foreign calls that were coming in. This is the base where it was at. Part of it is actually an underground bunker that they removed and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's the old Army base. And I did that for about 4 months. It was about 4.5 months with the school. And then I got stationed at Point Reyes Station, which is right outside. If you look at the map of California, you see like this little point north, about an hour or so north of San Francisco. That's where I'm stationed. There again, this is another half underground bunker thing. And it's the communications area master station, Pacific. Did that for about 3.5 years. And this nice little woman over here that's filming me, and, you know, I actually, here I am in California. She's in Ohio. And you're kind of wondering, how does that work? Well, through the wonderful world of technology, I actually found her on a social networking site called MySpace, and we started talking. She had absolutely no photos of herself. She had a music page that she shared with me, and we just started talking and having a dialogue. And she flew out here, I flew out to Ohio, so on and so forth, and I got out of the military and came here, had a job for a while, got laid off, and decided I was going to use my GI Bill to go back to school. During this time, we established our ministry, and the interesting thing about the ministry is it encompasses my life story and her life story. And we try and go around and try and do different things to help people. We'll speak at events, we'll do things online. We use a lot of the online media. We have a couple of programs that we do online. And one of the things that's happened at the school, I've been the co-chairman and the chairman of the College Republican. I've been the vice president of Student Senate. And the one thing that she talked about is straightforward. I actually met Gavin Campos online, and I gave him my number and said, I'm really interested in finding out what's going on. For those of you who are interested, you should know his brother died on Christmas holidays. And that's just, he walked in and saw him foaming at the mouth, and he was like freaking out. He's like, I'm tired of the pills, I'm tired of the pills. And Gavin's pretty a rough guy. If you talk to him, he'll tell you what he really thinks, you know. He's still trying to make a decision on where his walk with Christ is, if he has one or not. But if you see that page, there's 3,000 people on the page right now. And people keep asking me, it's like, how do I just shut up? I'm tired of seeing this stuff. I'm tired of hearing this stuff. I said, these people are hungry. They're hungry to share their message. They're hungry to find some kind of existence, to find something that they need. And I realize there's more medications coming out now and more rules and regulations and things that are trying to assist those that are addicted. And one of the issues that I realize in Ross County, there is not a rehab in Ross County that needs to be done. There's a lot of work in Ross County. There's a lot of work in Scioto County has to do. But I realize that together we can make a difference. What you guys have done in the last short time, I mean, did you ever think you would meet the governor and the governor would shake your hand and come to your meetings and people in the community would want to be in a room to want to support what's going on and share the story? You know, like my grandmother would say, she'd probably be about, and I've said this before in other videos and shows, 93, 94, she would say, this is just something we don't talk about. If that person's doing that, we don't want nothing to do with him. We can't help him. He's a black sheep. Where I come from, the word's black sheep. I don't know if he was black sheep here. But even my story, I was considered a black sheep because I was homeless. And I realized getting into the psychological mind of an addict by the fact that I lived with them for 4 or 5 years, and not even the work family, and then 18 some odd years with a family that was that way. I realized that there is no such case where someone can't be reached. I have seen men and women come into rehabs and clinics and the Salvation Army and homeless shelters, so on and so forth, completely defiantly against God, completely defiantly against, I'm going to get clean. And somebody found the right way to reach them, and it's always some kind of form of love. Because I realized love can break through just about anything that's in existence, because it was people that loved on me that kept me from going. It was so interesting. The addicts, that when I would go to the meetings with them and just try and talk to them, there were times where I was tempted to do different things in my life or something was going on, and they themselves would say, don't be like me. Don't let this happen to me. That's the thing. Most people realize where they are in life and how they're trying to get to some kind of point. I realize that we do need solace. We do need solace across the whole state, if not the whole nation. See, I'm familiar with the Red Ribbon Campaign. When I was in high school, I was a drug-free law student. They were picked based on your school, and you had to get like a couple letters of recommendation. So this is something I'm kind of used to doing even back when I was one step away from being homeless. I realized the best way that we can take care of this problem is to continue with the education and letting people know that there's ways to get the word out there, and that what you're doing is not in vain. You know, like Mother Teresa said, like if you can only feed one person, just feed one person. Well, right now, if you can stop one addict, just stop one addict. Or like we would tell the addicts, it's like, well, go help another addict. You'll have no time to take care of your addiction if you're too busy trying to help someone else. Or like I'll tell the people on the page, don't be afraid. That's one of the biggest things I've noticed. Is so many people are so scared. Especially in this time and day of the economy and family and so on and so forth. People are so afraid to just take that step out there and say, here I am, I'm exposed. This is what I do. Well, how do I get help? Or I don't want help. So I really want to thank you guys for everything that you do. Because there's going to come a time when someone else is going to come in this room, and it may not be today, maybe several months and years from now, they're going to remember what you've done. There's people watching your Facebook that aren't even on your friends list. So they're seeing what's happening. I realize the culture in Southern Ohio is people watch things for several months, about several years, to see how consistent you are. And that's the one good thing you have when you have the consistency. You have the heart, you have the drive. And I believe that we can, all things are possible. We can change this. That we can get to this point where drug addiction exists, but there's an ulterior motive removed and an opportunity for something better to be done. I've talked to people across the state, from other political people, some in the science field, some in the medical field, and they say hope is coming and changes are coming. It's going to require more funding, it's going to require more changes of the laws and regulations, but it's going to require more people to get their hands dirty. And I'd like to thank you guys for getting your hands dirty today. Thank you very much.